Hey, party people, what is up? What is up? What is up? Folks, this is it. This is the last video on the newly redesigned Osamodas. If you haven't seen, I have put out videos on the agility build, the chance build, and the intelligence build. And now that I have tried them all, I could give you my final thoughts on it. And overall, I think the Osa's alright. I think I had too much expectations because they call this a redesign and not a revamp. When you think of a redesign, you would imagine it's like, okay, they took the time to re envision the OSA within the confines of Dofus Touch, right? So I thought they were going to build this character, this archetype from the ground up for Dofus Touch. And it turned out to be more, in my opinion, more of a rework. We do see a lot of spells kind of returning that the OSA already had. And especially when we got Thanks of Boo Woos back, we got High Energy Shot back. We saw some returning spells. Some of these spells are brand new, but for the most part, I would say 80% of it, they also already had access to or was already doing it. So I do consider this more of a rework than a redesign. So I am a little bit disappointed that they played it a little bit safe, and I think that hampered some of the create some of the creative potential they also could have had. Uh, I mean, they literally could have done a lot of things. They could have done anything with the Osamodas, but they did play it safe at the end of the day. They did simplify the OSA, even though it is more restrictive compared to the previous OSA. Overall, I think it's fine. It's fine. I don't think it's gonna turn any necks. I don't think it's doing anything impressive. It's fine. Like it's a middle of the road 7 out of 10. Right? It's average. It's all right. It's all right. The damage output's good, but I'm not necessarily focused on the numbers when I do these kind of reviews or when I do these kind of first impression videos. What I'm more focused on, which I don't know if I'm in the minority here, but I'm more focused on like, okay, does it feel good? Do these spells feel good to when I use them? Are they cool? How cool is this class? And most importantly, is it fun? And I think they do hit a lot of marks when it comes to the OSA, specifically the agility build, which was my personal favorite. And I could see this being the de facto build just because you get a lot of value out of the shield, right? You're dishing out damage and you're uh, uh, making yourself a lot more bulkier, right? Between Punch a Crackler, you got Lashing Claw. Let me see if I can get a got here. Hit me. Right. So agility build definitely has a lot of sustain, which is kind of it makes sense, right? Because this is supposed to be the build where you're up in your opponent's face, right? You're being a little bit reckless with this build. This is the this is pretty much like the what's the word I want to where's the word I'm thinking of? This is the build where if you like just to whack things, this is gonna be your build, right? This is where you could be a little bit more, well, definitely more offensive, a little bit more adamant when it comes to your approach to your tactical engagement with the enemies. Um, this build is meant for you to throw yourself in the middle of a cluster of enemies and just kind of whack everything, right? Kind of let them dogpile you. You're gonna take as many out as you can while your while your HP depletes slowly, thanks to your sustain and to your shields. Uh, Overall, it does feel good to use. It does feel like you are playing that tanky kind of archetype, a character. Uh, this is kind of like I wouldn't say tank, but this is like your Hulk build, right? This is your big, muscly uh, character, right? Which I would describe it as a Hulk type character. Obviously, this is reinforced with the summon, not the summon, the transformation you take shape of, right? Which is like this kind of bulky sheep dude. Hold up. Sheep or goat? I don't know what this is. Right? And even this is called the colossal form, right? So this is like your colossal, X-Men colossal character. This is your Hulk character. You're big, you're strong, you're there to whack stuff. And it feels good to use, right? Part being that, Punch of the Crackler is a very impactful move. It's not a new move. It was there. It was Intelligence prior. So it was something this branch took for an Intelligence build. But it makes sense that it falls under this, especially since agility now controls the Crackler, right? So contextually, it makes sense. The only disconnect there is that it is agility. When you think of agility, you think something's agile, fast, something a little bit more slippery, which is kind of counterintuitive, but that's just how it landed. But yeah, this was my favorite build. Overall, like it feels good to use. All the spells kind of reinforce that this is your tanky playstyle character. It feels good to use. I do feel that the Cabal is probably the weakest part of them all. I mean, just visually, it's just not very impressive. Like you could bite their heels, right? It just chews and then attacks. I would personally, if it worked to me, I would make that animation and that Cabal a little bit more just visually impactful. Because right now, again, it's just like it just bites people. And that's about it. It's alright. It's alright. Like I said, a big theme here with my rating is going to be it's just a middle of the road 7. But I do think agility also definitely, if we were to go a little bit more into the weeds of things, definitely I would give this like a 9 out of 10. Because the shields are insane. And this is something that, these numbers are going to be tweaked. I do have seen people bring up the fact that the shields are kind of crazy. The shields are a little bit more crazier than the shields from Masquerader. But then again, my focus is not focused on the numbers, but more so like, all right, well, what is this new redesign or rework character doing, right? But I did figure out how to use that spell though. So here, let me see. So if we go into summon the Crackler, let's go into animal form. No, that is fangs. All right, animal form. So we got 340 shield. And then if I use whip on the enemy, not on the summons, I gain 500 shield. And then I could have shielded myself there before, right? This. So I could get close, if I play this right, I could get close to 1,000 shield. Now, obviously, the transformations, here, let's talk about that a little bit. They're okay. Like, I don't necessarily hate them. There is some jank to them. But I could see them being a hook for people. Because I have seen a handful of people comment that they actually like the transformations. And I can see them why, right? They are pretty neat. That your character could kind of transform into this, like, monstrous form. This kind of more, like, intimidating form, I would say. I could definitely see it where, like, if a new person sees the Osamodas, they see them transform into a dragon. It's like, oh man, that is cool, right? I could see somebody saying that way and being swayed to playing the Osamodas. With that being the case, that there's people who definitely don't like it, but there's definitely people who like it. And Kama is definitely on board with it. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're here to stay. I do hope that they kind of work out some of the jank to them. As you can see here, the colossal form is just standing on top of the boar. I don't know if some people might find that funny. But it is kind of janky, right? All right, so here, let me pass my turn here. Okay, so let me summon one of these guys here. Okay, and then let me pass my turn. So if I shield my Osa, like this, and then if I do animal form, shields there, and with 940 shields, that stacks too. Yeah, I definitely see them kind of reeling this in a little bit here, but overall, I'm happy with what they did here. I think they did a solid job with accomplishing what they set out to be, and this is being, this is your colossal Hulk archetype character. It feels that way with the spells. It reinforces that. Damage output definitely there. Super cool. So definitely, this is my favorite one. So now here, let's go check out the chance one. Switch over here. Get that blue going on. The chance one is alright. Is alright. Definitely the damage output is there for this one. Let me see. The spells could use a little bit of work, right? Like this is literally just gust. Gust with a frog animation on it. This, it just throws like smoke, right? They can incorporate more of the chance water kind of element into it. But other than that, it's all right, right? It's visually, it's not doing anything impressive in terms of like the attack animations or like the effects. But the damage is definitely there, and I know some people are all about those numbers. I can see people gravitating towards this Unlimited Brush just because the damage output is there. But other than that, this is supposed to be like your poison toxic build, which definitely is reinforced by having the frog. Tofu, not so much. So definitely not. Actually, it is. Yeah, again, I would give this like a 7 out of 10. Because you do have Corrosive Claw, right? Which could be reinforced a little bit. Maybe some like poison, like make this into like a poison animation. Some kind of like toxic bubbles come out. I think that's my biggest criticism with this build. It's kind of reinforced that archetype or that way, those attributes in the animations, right? Whirlwind, why is the chance also throwing air? I don't know. Again, this would have been cool if it would have been like a purple a whirlwind, maybe it's like toxic air that is maybe, I don't know, fart. Like it does have a little bit, right, of that like toxic. You see like the frog kind of like vomit on them. And this spell, this spell's kind of weird. Sison, what is Sison? Hold on, give me 1 second, folks. Let me look this up because I never know what this word is. So, how do you spell this? Sison. Sison. How do you pronounce this?
Scission.
How is scission leap? So scission, the action of state of cutting or being cut. Okay. Biochemistry. Breakage of a chemical bond, specifically one in a long chain molecule, so that two smaller chains result. And then the other definition, in division or split between people or parties. Yeah, because it kind of looks like scissors. Like scission, right? Incision. I've heard of that word. I never heard just scission by itself. Again, I don't know how would you visually I see where they're going with this because like contextually, now that we read the definition, right? It's splitting two characters further apart, right? There you go. Like it's moving them apart. And then if you go into the animal form, let's see if they fix this here, because I know there was an update after I did the water chance Osa. So this is supposed to move me and a target. Yeah, which it's not doing. It's alright. The frog is cool, but obviously, you know, it's taken from the PC side of things. It's got leap. I think the leaping, like, just contextually, it makes sense for the frog to leap, do splash damage. And the bewitchment, it makes kind of sense since this Osa is more into, like, chemicals, I would say, right? Because it has corrosion, right? This is more like your poison toxic build. The frog makes sense to have it here. The transformation is a little janky because it looks like a bird. When you think of bird, you think of flying, air, agility, right? And it's obviously it's taken from the agility path on the PC side of things. So it got what's that word? It got force fit into Dofus Touch, and you can definitely see it, right? Because when you turn to that bird, it definitely looks like a bird, right? There's nothing like toxic or corrosive poison about it, right? So visually there's a little bit disconnect. So for me, this is a 7 out of 10. It's all right. It's all right. Not my favorite, but I'm indifferent about it. I could definitely see people running this build. Again, the damage output on this thing is kind of crazy because you get those double damage lines. So if I do that, do that, fangs over there. And then what does this do on Celestial range? Yeah, and this is kind of your range build too. So you go there, kind of run away. Then you go here. Oh. It's supposed to pack. It's not letting me pack. I don't know why. Yeah, look at that. It's just a lot of damage coming out of. So damage wise, cool. Visually, it's not gonna turn any necks, right? And lastly, let's talk about this. Now I think there's other people who definitely share my sentiment when it comes to the Fire Osa. This I am a little bit disappointed with. It does feel like they kind of lost some of the identity of the intelligence Osa. They're trying to do this whole support thing where like this is a healer as well, which is cool and everything, right? Like there's nothing wrong that the Osa is healing. It's just like this is also like the dragon version of the Osamodas. And when I think of dragon, I don't think of a archetype or attributes that lean into like supporting a party, supporting team members. When I think of a dragon, I think of, yo, this thing's gonna wreck. This thing's out to wreck things up, to just like catch things on fire, flamethrowers, fireballs, meteors, what have you. Right? And you don't really get none of that here. Right? Because this is cool. Right? You turn to this badass dragon, but you're not doing badass dragon things. And that's my biggest thing with this, right? Because, yeah, sure, you could heal and attack. Cool. But there's like no like animation to this either. Right? Ghostly Claw? Like that's not very dragon. It's not a very dragon thing, right? To be Like I could see it shooting like a fireball, right? This could be totally called like literally just fireball, right? It could shoot a fireball, right? That's a very dragon thing to do, right? Uh, so my gripe with this Elements of Breath is just like the visual stuff, right? You have this cool burning breath. You have the icon of a dragon, shooting fire. You do have... Actually, you know what? Let me get out of the dragon mode. Okay. You do have like a flamethrower, kind of like AoE. Fine, that all makes sense. Like design-wise, contextually, visually, it makes sense, right? That does not look like fire. That does not look like fire at all. Like, what the hell? What's going on over here? Like, it's definitely orangey. It's like a force. It's like a force thing you're throwing at, right? It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. And then you have... Let me see my... Pass my... How do we like? And then we have Substitution. Which... It sounds like a support spell than like something the dragon would do. Right? Like... Sure, it swaps places. But that totally could have been a support spell. Like this could have been like Fangs of Dragon or something like that. I don't know. But when I think of dragons, I think of something more aggressive, a more adamant, a more offensive. And it's weird that they keep pigeonholing the intelligence also into like a support type thing when it comes to like this element of path, which is I don't like. I definitely don't like. This is an element of path where like it kind of feels very similar to what we had before. It's doing the same things that it was previously with this, because before I think it was classified under support kind of archetype. It was healing with sacrificing and a summon to bestial heal, but I mean that was. But all elemental branches had access to doing that, so it wasn't necessarily locked to the intelligence Osa. I don't know. I know this is weird, right? And then again, you have the summoning koala, which is not very like. It doesn't reinforce the. Just visually, it just doesn't reinforce the dragon attribute. There's nothing dragon about this koala. There's nothing that necessarily speaks like fire about it, right? Intelligence is supposed to be fire. I just feel like this branch is so disjointed, very disjointed. Just visually. At least like summon a little like fairy character or something. I don't know. Because the koala doesn't read like it's like a healer type of thing, and it's never done that, right? It's just like this zombie koala, which I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's a lore thing behind zombie koala, but I always thought it was a weird choice for a summon. Out of all the creatures you could choose, you went with this one. Right? Like, what would be a cool creature for, like, this koala? Like, it could do the same things, right? If you could keep literally all the spells the same, what would be a cool, like, healing type of creature? Man, I don't know. I have to think about this. Maybe, you know what would have been cool? Here we go. Oh, man, I think even Siri agrees with me. You'd have summoned a freaking dragon. A black dragon. That would have been awesome. Or like one of these guys. Oh, dude. You guys remember when Osa had the Magus bee worker? That was cool. That's a cool summon. But yeah, it's so weird, right? And this was their chance to kind of like, to kind of, how do I want to say this? To kind of work all this out and to really solidify the Fire Osa as like the Fire Osa, right? This is like, I don't know. Am I the only one that feels this way? But also, yeah, overall, I did say in my video, it was just kind of boring. It plays it so safe. It literally, it's doing the same things it was doing before. The dragon is cool and everything. Right? It makes sense that you have the dragon. I mean, you turn into a dragon, you have dragon summon. You have this random ass koala. It's kind of funky. The spells, I think the spell animations, they're just not very impactful. Because even this, like, there's no animation to that. There's no like particle effects. There's no visual flair to it. Like part of the disappointment is like, man, they could have done such cool things with it to really make it pop. But at this, I mean, at the time of the recording, the month is almost over. It is February 27 right now. So I think what we get here is pretty much what we're going to get when the thing goes live. I don't think there's going to be much work put into this any further than it is now. Again, they're going to tweak the numbers. They're going to make sure all that stuff is balanced. But as far as like the visuals and the art assets and the animations, I think that's all kind of set in stone. It's just, that's how it's going to land. And that's how it landed. Here, let's get ourselves into the dragon form again. I don't think they're going to do anything about this janky dragon transformation. Right, even this, there's no like pop to it, right? Your character doesn't like start glowing and then the boost, there's like a burst of particle effects, like, oh, now you turn to a dragon, right? It's just there's nothing kind of sprucing this up. And that's another thing they talked about too when they first announced like the quote unquote redesign. They were going to make the Osa more visually impactful. And I think when they said that, they just meant, oh, it's going to transform like it does on PC, which is so disappointing. If I had the time, you guys know me. I like to like flare up my videos, specifically with the Run It series. I like to add like a little visual, like particle effects, a little visual impacts. Like if at the time, like I would add particle effects, like, oh man, this would have been so cool, like this, right? If at the time it's like, oh, here, let me make a freaking drop a Draco animation. So when you do Burning Breath in Dragon mode, it's like a meteor that comes down, or like a fireball that the dragon shoots into the sky and it comes back down, right? Kind of reflecting the AoE area of this, right? Like little stuff like that is what the game is missing. It's just overall, just like that visual impact where people see it. It's like, oh man, that is cool. I want to play this. I want to try that. All right. I think they missed the ball on that. This is why I give the Osa just overall like a 7. Before it did have like the whole thing where you summon 6 summons, you sacrifice something, you make a giant summon, right? That was impressive. Visually, that would make people go like, oh shit, that is pretty cool. I want to play this class now. And it's missing that part. This new rework Osa, it's definitely missing that hook where like it makes people go like, oh shit, that is cool. And a lot of it has to do with just the visual language of it, the visual feedback, right? Because, again, okay, so you know what? Maybe this is just like a simple like flamethrower animation, right? It doesn't have to be fancy, nothing, right? But this would reinforce, like, okay, you gotta summon out, right? You gotta summon out, you gotta sacrifice it. And now you get like that big splash of that big visual animation where like, okay, now you're in dragon mode, like, oh shit, now you mean business, right? Now it gives you just another more reason to be transforming into these, because it spices up your animations. Like your animations look different when you're in these modes, right? They get souped up, they get improved, right? Which is like, I would imagine, if you're just this little Osa who turns into a dragon, right? Like you're more badass in this mode, and I just don't get that. Just across the board, I just don't get that you're more capable. You kind of expand your toolbox when you're in this mode. I don't know. Am I just ranting, folks? Am I just ranting? But I think overall, like little things like that is what the game is missing, and little stuff like that is why, just people don't really. It needs more eye candy, and this was the place to do it with the Osa. Man, that would have been so cool. This dragon would have been so awesome, just like the fire animations doing cool things, right? But no, it's just like here. Let me show you. It's just like, right? It's got this tongue sticking out for some reason. I don't know why. And this spell right here, I don't know, man. I can't figure out the spell. Please, somebody in the comments, help me. This spell feels so useless. I don't know what's up. Like I use it, it just gives them 60 HP. Somebody help me out, folks. Somebody help me. But that is my impression of the Osamoda guys. Agree, disagree, let me know in the comments below. Let me know how you feel about the Osamodas. I think it's alright. It's alright overall. Yeah, I think I was just expecting too much. But this is definitely in line with, I don't want to badmouth the team, but because I don't know, right? To be fair to them, I don't know what kind of conditions they're working under, right? I think we got the transformations because, that's what the PC was doing, and those are like the art assets they got to work with. A big thing about Dofus Touch is they create very little unique assets for it in terms of like art assets, animation, stuff like that. So I don't know if they're just limited with like, you can only use what they have with PC. Their stuff is already made, just implemented here, right? So let's be fair with them. But I think the team and the designers are definitely capable of creating something cool, right? I think they could have done it with the Osa. They could have made just visually just eye candy, right? I don't know, but it's not bad. Like it's not bad. It's not broken. Like the damage output is there. It's definitely capable. It's doing all right. It's just not very interesting, and it's not. Again, it's not gonna turn any heads. But I'll leave it there, folks. I think I'm starting to rant now. This whole thing was a rant. But yeah, I mean, I'll keep playing my Osa. You'll be seeing her on videos and stuff like that. Like it's cool. I'm happy with it. Specifically with the agility branch, which is what I play. It's all right. It's all right. They did the best they could. I'm fine with it. One last thing though before I leave, I have seen comments where a lot of people are disappointed that the Osa kind of moved away from the army of one type of thing. And it makes sense. It makes sense. I think a big appeal about the Osa was like doing this, right? So the summon spanning. Just spam out the summons everywhere. I think I only have 4 summons in the set, right? Depending if they keep this new system or not, that might affect it. But it makes sense that they moved away from the army of one type of thing, just because like the game overall has changed. And I get why they did that. The game overall went to a more faster pace and more offensive, sort of. I don't want to say meta, and I would environment, right? We are getting sidekicks. We're getting heroes, right? So there's less of a reason to be just summon spamming 6 summons onto the field, right? Just cluttering up things. The game definitely moved to more faster pace combat. Specifically, like we saw the exaltations, right, where your character just gets progressively stronger throughout the fight, just to speed things up. So it does make sense that they moved away from that. Though I do get people's sentiment where a lot of people, that was their hook for playing the Osamodas. But I do get Ankama's side where like, okay, you know what? Let's contain it down to like 1 or 2 summons, and that should be about it, right? Personally, I'm happy with that. Like, I don't want to be doing busy work when playing the Osamodas, right? I've always played the Osas with 1 or 2 summons, and that's about it. Even though my agility set does have 6 summons, I never did the whole summon out 6 creatures and then make the giant one, or sacrifice 5 and make the giant. I never did that whole thing. It's just not a way I played. So for me, it feels very natural, right? For me, it doesn't feel like a constraint necessarily with this new Osa and the way it plays. But I can see why people do that. But you know what, guys? It's, we're hitting 8 years into Dofus Touch. We're 10 years. I think it's safe to say this game's gonna hit 10 years, and the game's around because it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving, and it has to, right? It has to keep people on their toes. Change, MMOs are synonymous with each other. Things change, they're gonna change things, so don't get too attached with things. That's what I would tell people. Like, MMO, do not get attached. It's a live service game. It's meant to be updated. It's meant to be changed. That's what makes an MMO interesting, right? Because if the game never changed, it just limits itself in terms of growth, spanning into new horizons and stuff like that. So yeah, don't get too attached to things. This Osa, it's 5 years down the line, 6 years, they might revamp it again, right? So that is it, folks. Overall, I think I've said this like 3 times already. It's all right. I enjoyed what they did here. I think they could have spiced it up with some very impactful animations. But yeah, that is it. All right, folks. Take care of yourself and peace.